Hello and welcome. My name is Shannon Kemp and I'm the Chief Digital Officer at DATAVERSITY. And this is My Career in Data, a DATAVERSITY Talks podcast dedicated to learning from those who have careers in data management, to understand how they got there and to talk with people who help make those careers a little bit easier. To keep up to date in the latest in data management education, go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Hello, and welcome to My Career in Data, a podcast where we discuss with industry leaders and experts how they have built their careers. I'm your host, Shannon Kemp, and today we're talking to a group from Enterprise Knowledge. Today, we are joined by Lulit Tesfaye, Partner and VP of Knowledge and Data Services, Joe Hilger, Chief Operating Officer, and Zach Wahl, President and CEO from Enterprise Knowledge. And normally this is where a podcast host would share a short bio of the guests. But in this podcast, your bio is what we're here to talk about. Hello, everybody.
Hello. Hey, Shannon. Thanks for having us on.
Oh, I'm so excited. I love a group interview. Okay. So the reason for having a group interview and the reason we brought you all together today is the three of you have co-authored a new book titled Bridging Knowledge, Data, and AI, Harnessing the Semantic Layer Framework to Drive Intelligence. Now, before we get to the book and how it came about, let me just ask you to introduce yourselves. And introduce your company. So you all work for Enterprise Knowledge, work for and have founded. So tell me, for those of you who may not know, what type of business is Enterprise Knowledge? Whomever wants to share.
Happy to lead off. I'm sure my colleagues will want to chime in with some color, as they're wont to do. Enterprise Knowledge, we are the world's largest dedicated knowledge, information, data consultancy. We are in the business of connecting people to the information they need to do their job. And over the years, that has turned from being a very human-centric pursuit, a lot of information architecture, taxonomy, ontology, to the current stage of semantics, where we're really helping organizations to make their AI initiatives successful, to add context, to, as the book is called, build bridges between their different sources of information, different knowledge assets and their different forms, and deliver trustworthy glass box AI in ways that really add business value. Joe, Lulit, what did I miss there?
I think you got it all. We, simply put, we do this for companies around the world, helping them make their data easier to find, work with, and actually now powering a ton of AI projects.
It's a hot topic right now. So, Zach, let's start with you. So you are president and CEO. Tell me, what is it you do? What's your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, I don't know that there's a specific day to day. I can tell you that typically I am focused more on long-term strategy and growth of the organization. So there's a fair bit of marketing, business development, a view towards what's coming next in the industry. And so in a way, in addition to CEO, I wear the CMO hat from that perspective, or the CSO, as in strategy, not security. God, no. And I also do a fair bit of work on the people side. So working alongside our HR department to really foster a community of collaboration, kindness, as we call it, to ensure that we are supporting each other and learning along the way. That said, everything I just said, I would say Joe and Lulit also do. So for instance, Lulit was the one who identified semantic layer as a really hot growing trend that we need to be all over. We'll say more about that as the interview proceeds.
Oh, I love it. And I'm not surprised at that revelation. I have worked with Lulit a bit, so I know she's on top of things. But let's move to you, Joe, as the Chief Operating Officer. What is it that you do?
A lot of different things. So I do security, among other things. Not my favorite, but super important for our clients. Contact reviews, all of operations, everything from finance and accounting through our delivery process and our PMO. And then I've been working with the teams a lot on some of the demos and reusable components that we're giving to our clients so that they can be more effective faster.
Very, very nice. So, Lulit, I've worked with you quite a bit. I know you probably, I've known you for a few years working together, and I'm just now getting the opportunity to meet Zach and Joe. I'm very, very grateful for that. But tell me, as a VP of Knowledge and Data Services, same question. What is it you do, and what's your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, I share the sentiment. No, there is no such thing as day-to-day. However, in this role, there are multiple hats, but primarily successful delivery in everything that we do, from strategy, design, and implementation. That's the core of our work, our integrity, why we're here. And then in addition to that, charting the path for how we grow our people from skills to expertise development, identifying the gaps that we have in how things and technology are evolving, but also what our clients are asking for and looking for, and being able to think 2-3 steps ahead of our clients to be able to help. So charting, but looking ahead, thinking about how we can leverage our collective experience in light of emerging technologies, staying abreast of that. That's a big part of this. And baked into that in partnership with Zach and Joe, marketing, compliance, all the things that we would have to have in place to support the large institutions that we work with. So that's a big part of my day. If I didn't have this virtual board, you'll see a lot of whiteboard behind me of all the solutioning and thinking that we do with my team members. So I find fun and thrilling excitement every day because every problem is different every day. So that's in a nutshell what I do, a day in a life, so to speak.
I love it. Well, let's work the other way. So in terms of responses, so Lulit, how do you work with data in your day-to-day job?
That's a tough question. And I'm going to take a little bit of a step back and define data a little bit, because I know it means there are many different things to many people. And I think this is in our journey also, as Zach called out earlier. We started as a knowledge management company. And a big part of that was that traditionally it's considered as tacit knowledge capture, that piece of the people, the expertise, connecting that piece, shifting into information management as a big part of that. How do you translate that into these applications and machines? And especially over the last decade, to answer the organization's questions, finding and connecting them to their information, a big part of that lives in what traditionally is structured data. So when we talk about data, or like we collectively call it knowledge assets, what we are doing on a day-to-day basis is connecting those assets, the knowledge, the information, and the data within them, but also not just for humans. Today, it's making that machine readable. So for machines as well. So the way we work with quote unquote data now is in the form of treating it as a knowledge asset, just like everything that you have within your organization, and that you can describe to humans as well as to machines. That's kind of like a high level overview of that. And then when you get into implementation, there's the plumbing, there's the engineering, there's the modeling that my team works on, that I guide, and also architecture as well. So that's a core part of how we interact with and work with data and knowledge assets.
Yeah, is there data, or how are you staying on top of what's coming and what's hot and what's not?
Yeah, well, a lot of it is also partially where we first met, you and I. We attend your conferences. We are embedded on a lot of the industry events. We speak at conferences as well as a big part of this. So we have a lot of team members I know you've met that attend these industry events, industry conferences. We host a conference ourselves on Semantic Layer Symposium. So we are out there, but also because we work across many different industries, we are able to cross-pollinate lessons learned and case studies and the bruises and all of that to bear for our organizations. Zach or Joe, if you want to add anything else there.
I would. We're in a neat position. The number one way that we get new clients and win new work is that they reach out to us. They've read our knowledge base. They've seen us speak at these conferences that Lulit mentioned. And so we have a lot of people we don't know reaching out to us. And I think one of the greatest data points is what they're asking for, the words they're using, what's in the RFP, what are the deliverables, the problems that they're having in the words that they're using to describe them. It's incredibly insightful. And as we every year publish our various trends articles, that's one of the greatest inputs for it, is frankly what's top of mind for the CDOs and CEOs around the world.
I think I would also add, we've invested a lot in collaboration and community inside of EK. So Shannon, we tell our clients, you get all of EK when you hire any of us. And it's really true. The three of us just left a knowledge share company-wide to talk about something new or a skill, et cetera, that we're doing. We've held that since the company began. We have sessions all along communities of practice where people are coming up with new ideas. And that lets us bring new ideas to our clients and really encourages the right people to join EK. The ones we get are very interested in being cutting edge and wanting to do neat stuff.
Nice. Well, Joe, let's move to you. So how do you work with data in your day-to-day job? A COO. Yeah.
So I leave out client data because that's what they're doing. But data is an issue, really an issue for me. We've got to make sure we have it. It's properly protected. Every agreement I sign says that we are going to be very careful and cautious with our clients' data. So we've had to build processes around how we collect data and then how we get rid of data when we're done with it. So that is one part of my life that is important and I'm attuned to. And then beyond that, we've always wanted to act bigger and more mature than we were so that we could grow into ourselves. So we've had data about sales processes in HubSpot for years now. We have project evaluation data that's been collected week over week. Lulit and I were just looking at our KPIs across projects so we could find ways to figure out if we were not meeting our clients' needs, we wanted to jump in more quickly and make sure we fixed it before they came to us. And so we spend a lot of time trying to use data to help guide us in our decision-making process.
Very nice. And Zach, same question to you.
Yeah, I think Joe and Lulit covered it really well. The one that I would add is we've always had a growth mentality. And so decisions around hiring have always been really data-driven, as well as decisions about marketing, moving into new markets and launching new products. All of that leverages a number of different inputs, as well as, of course, some good luck and gut to go along with it, which never hurts.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that is nice. So tell me then, what made you all decide to let's write a book together?
Yeah, it's Lulit's fault. So we were, it was late 2023. I already mentioned that Lulit was the one who surfaced the concept of the semantic layer. It was something we'd been doing for years. I mean, from EK's very first day, we were doing taxonomy design. Soon after, we were doing ontology design. We were one of the first into the knowledge graph market. We'd been focusing on quality and metadata around knowledge assets really for 13 years now. So the component parts had always been there. They are and have always been our core services. But Lulit was the one from the very specific vantage point in which she sits who came to Joe and I and said, this is going to be the thing that everybody's talking about in 2 years. I mean, that's a direct quote. So you should probably be going to her for lottery tickets and stock tips at this point. So in early 2024, the three of us, as well as Sarah Nash, a practice leader here at EK, went and did a weekend long offsite to talk about how we would guide this conversation. Shortly thereafter, we started doing a lot of blogging on the topic. We launched the Semantic Layer Symposium, an annual conference in Europe on the topic. And we had a whole Trello board of different things from marketing, from hiring to internal education that we would work on. And you can actually chart the spike on Google Trends and everything else as the term grew and grew and grew. Now, back then, we had no idea exactly how much of an impact all of that would have on AI and how important the AI conversation would be today. So there, again, was a little bit of luck in the thinking around this. But one of the things on the Trello board was, let's write a book. And it was a little bit of a slow start. It was certainly a bit of a slog as we went through it, but that was the impetus of it. A weekend in Orange, Virginia, where we plotted out a multi-year strategy around semantic layers.
Oh, I love it. So tell me a little bit about the process and tell me a little bit more about the book. What's your favorite part of the book that everybody should know about?
I'll start there. I'm sure we have different perspectives on this. I think, the biggest point, semantics and semantic web has been around. I think we just celebrated this 25th year anniversary actually this year. And to Zach's point, this is not something new. And what makes this exciting and why now, like the biggest driver being AI, is that a lot of traditional data side of the world, the structured data, there is also a concept of the semantic layer, which we call the metrics layer, which is very different from what we're talking about. I think that's the distinction that I would like to articulate. When we talk about a semantic layer, we're talking about the things that refer to meaning and not the physical data. So metadata, taxonomies, ontologies, graphs, the components that Zach talked about, business glossary fits into that as well. So the most exciting part of this is, in a way, to be able to create clarity, especially on the market, because there has been, I empathize with a lot of leaders right now. It is very hard to make a decision about solutions, technology. Just the vendor market is very vast, and that's exciting in its own right. But if you are an executive, if you're a CDO or a CAO, like an AI leader, it is very hard to make this decision. So what really excited me about writing this book is we have been living the scars and the gray hair. Maybe you cannot see through the camera right now, over the last few years, and to be able to capture that all, to be able to reflect back to all of that and capture that in real world case studies, but also don't do what we did in areas where early days where we screwed up, for instance, right? Like, or learned a big lesson. So being able to capture all of that, it was just a journey of reflection, but also an opportunity to create clarity and provide reason into what's going on in this space from just our experience.
One thing to add to this, Shannon, we've got a whole section on case studies. And so many of the people that author these books talk about technologies, but haven't always done them. It was really important to us to be able to say what you're reading is real and people have done it and it's worked. And I really think that's important for someone to have the confidence to do stuff like this.
Whether you're leading a data program or building your career from the ground up, the DATAVERSITY Training Center meets you where you are and helps you get where you're going. Explore expert-led courses, industry-backed certifications, and flexible subscriptions designed for real-world application at every level. Get practical insights you can use today. Start learning at training.dataversity.net.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit then about your backgrounds and how you got to be where you are today. One of my favorite questions of these interviews is, when you were very young, say 6 years old, was this your dream? Did you think I'm going to found or I'm going to work for, a knowledge management company? Or what was the dream at 6? Joe, let's start with you this time.
Okay. Well, a little before that, I was probably fireman, but I think by 6 or 7, it was going to be Mark Price playing in the NBA. At 5'9.5", 5'10", that probably wasn't real. So somewhere along the line, I switched off to maybe something that was a better fit for me, and started in consulting from day one out of college, and have been doing it ever since.
Wow. Always in the data field, or?
No, that's been a journey. Started at Coopers and Lybrand, which I guess is now PwC. And early on I was doing data for banking, but then moved into, in the late 90s, content management when that was a hot thing. Then enterprise search, and then did a lot of work with, if you remember, MarkLogic and kind of the XML based data work, and just kind of then into graphs, et cetera. It's been kind of following what made sense to me.
Yeah, I love the fireman to basketball player to consultant. Well, so what was your focus of study as you started getting older? What did you form a passion around?
So I was a finance and basically computer science major. So probably a little bit what I do now.
Makes sense.
I coded a little bit when I first started. It's been a long time. Probably good I'm not doing that anymore for everyone.
Yeah. I'm with you. It's not my thing. I've tried it, but I'm grateful for anyone who loves it. Lulit, tell me, what did you want to be when you were 6 years old?
So I have like the most, I think, the zigzag path down to this room. I wanted to be a lawyer, and I became one actually, and then realized that a couple of years in, maybe not something that I want to do litigating for a lifetime. So it took a small pivot, shifted to an MBA, and majored in finance as well as program management. And I ended up working in the financial services space, mutual fund investments management. That's when I started dealing with data and applications as a core part of my work. And from there, I went into financial regulations, which kind of brought the legal experience with the data, the financial industry kind of came together. And that's where I was more working on building applications, web applications for data and regulatory enforcements. And that's when I met Zach and Joe. That is now 10 years ago. And I joined Enterprise Knowledge. I think I was employee number 9. I don't know. We were very small back then. And the rest is history. Here we are.
Oh, yeah. So Zach, same question. Where did you want to start? Did you envision like I'm going to co-found and with Joe this company?
Yes, I weirdly, I was probably the closest here. When I was a kid, I grew up pretty humbly, and so I wanted to be a businessman. I wanted a briefcase and a suit, and I didn't know actually what that would entail on a day-to-day basis. But my parents, the last time they moved, they dug out a picture I had drawn in my preteens, and it was of my future office building. And I can say that with the exception of the fact that it had a slide that went around the outside of the building, it was pretty spot on across the board. So yeah, I'm kind of doing exactly what I dreamed of doing in life, which is amazing.
I love that. So where did you start, Zach, in your career? I mean, what was your first job?
Consultant. I've been doing this my entire career. My degrees are in environmental science and political science. I got a job in consulting right after college. And initially I was doing environmental consulting, found that I didn't want to travel around the country sleeping in seedy motels while doing soil samples of gas stations. But this was 98. And so I had a really cool CEO at the time. And I went to him and I said, I would like to see what else I could do. I don't want to leave. And he was just in the process of starting a web design practice within the company. And the rest, as they say, is history, other than the fact that I couldn't code and didn't want to learn how. So I found the role for myself, which was to be the translator between the business and the technology. I've been doing that ever since. Spent most of my career in the first consultative days doing taxonomy design. So I'm a taxonomist by trade, and obviously expanded that into kind of a broader knowledge of different knowledge management techniques and information architecture, and now semantics.
Nice. So I always like to ask this of entrepreneurs, what made you want to start your own company? Why did you guys co-found Enterprise Knowledge?
Yeah, so it had truly been the thing I'd always wanted to do. I'm a very optimistic person. So when I buy a lottery ticket, or when I bought a lottery ticket in my 20s, I would always be disappointed when I didn't win. Like I know the odds, and I still was like, oh shoot, I really thought this was the one. But I would always dream, as I imagine pretty much everybody else does, of, you buy that ticket, what would I do if I won? And what I always dreamed I would do was start a consulting company. And so, again, I feel incredibly grateful. I feel like I'm living my dream. I won the lottery, so to speak. But it was what I always wanted to do. It took meeting Joe and having my previous company be acquired by a VC and me getting fired to actually start EK. So the origin story is that I was unceremoniously dumped from my previous company, one that no longer exists. And Joe, who I had known for years, is a little bit of a competitor and a little bit of a collegial partner, called me about 2 days in to unemployment and said, "What happened?" That everybody gets that call. And so he asked me at that point if I'd be interested in going into business with him. And after a little hemming and hawing, it ended up being a pretty easy yes.
Yeah. And Joe, what made you make that call?
I ran the branch office of a consultancy, and they were doing fine. We were actually the most profitable office. I asked the founders for equity, and they said, sure. But they said, it's still our company. We're going to make all the decisions. And I remember looking at a good friend of mine who I'd brought in to help me run the office. And I said, Niels, it's, I want to drive something. Mm-hmm. And I said, so it's probably time for a change. You'll take over the office. And I said, Zach knows everyone. I'll call him next week. That Monday, I look, wait, Zach's not at PPC anymore. What just happened? So I had planned to actually call him 2 or 3 days before. So timing would have been worse. But
is it was just meant? Yeah, and that's meant to be. And I love hearing those kind of stories where, Zach, it was a hard time, probably a panic moment, but it worked out, right?
I love talking about it. And I will say that when I got canned, I had just this epic imposter syndrome come washing down on me. Just terrible feeling of saying like, wow, maybe I really didn't deserve that opportunity. Maybe I shouldn't have been in that position. And it was really crushing. There was a weekend of a fair amount of wine being raided from my collection before I decided to figure out what came next. And it was a hard few months as we first started out. And I share that story really freely because I think so many people in their careers are self-limiting. They're limited by their own imposter syndrome. They're worried about taking the risk, and it doesn't always work out. But boy, getting fired was the best thing that's ever happened to me professionally. And I'm really proud to get to work with these two wonderful people, and then the very deep team of kind and smart people that we have built. It's like, I'll say it again. It's a dream come true.
I will say, everyone I have worked with from Enterprise Knowledge is exactly that. They're very kind. They're very knowledgeable. They're very professional. They're very easy to work with. In fact, you mentioned Sarah Nash earlier. Lulit recommended her to me to be a moderator for a panel for our online conferences. And now she's our moderator for every keynote panel because she's so amazing. So,
she is amazing.
Yeah,
she is. Yeah. All right. Well, so tell me, and Zach, I'll come back to you since you were just mentioning this. So was that your biggest lesson so far in your career, or what has been your biggest lesson so far in your career?
There are so many, but the one that I always like to talk about when someone asks that question is to show up as yourself at work. I actually, before EK, I was a young manager. I was a young executive, and I think I flubbed it. I think I was overly formal. I acted like the businessman I dreamed of being when I was 6 instead of being myself. And it was not wholly authentic. And I don't think that's somebody that's easy to follow. And so coming into EK, I had a lot to lose, but in a way I also had very little to lose. And Joe was such a natural human manager. He taught me a lot about how to show up at work and how to be yourself. And so I learned from him, and I think he's made me a better leader and manager from that. Being a little more vulnerable, a little bit less formal, and just really showing up and being yourself in the office.
A great lesson. And Joe, since your name was just invoked there, let's throw the question to you. What has been your biggest lesson?
I think it's about always learning. I talked about, I started in consulting, but I did a bunch of things along the way. And as I've watched EK grow, I mean, what Zach and I started doesn't look a bit like this. And it's because we've been learning, everyone in the company's been learning, and we grow together. And it's so easy to, when something doesn't go right, to step back and go, oh, I just learned something, as opposed to, wow, that was awful. Right. And I think just for me, if you can keep that spirit of learning going as long as possible, it'll make things fun. It'll protect you and keep you up to date. And it makes it easier for everyone to work together.
Yeah. Yes. Also a very good lesson. One I wish I had learned much earlier in my career. Wait, tell me, what's been your biggest lesson so far in your career?
Yeah, I would say I think my career path is a testament to this journey, which is being able to take risks and open to learning and change is a big part of the lesson of why I am doing what I'm doing, why we're all in this room. And also a big part of that is, especially if you're ambitious and driven, being kind to yourself, where, the 6-year-old me did not know, first what lawyering it was going to end up being. But the second aspect of it is, all the tools like Facebook did not exist at that time. The internet, without aging myself, the world changes. And what the 18-year-old self may have had different ideas for myself now. So being able to consistently reassess and learn, and as long as you're taking risks and moving on, and I think that's a happy life. That's what I've learned through this journey.
Again, another nice lesson, and part of why we started this podcast to show that careers in data management haven't come through a linear path necessarily, unless you're an analyst or maybe a data scientist. But there's so many different ways, and it is through that change that people get into this.
Yeah. And if I could add to that, actually, Shannon, I think in fact, the more you don't have a linear path, the better contributor you are to your team, right? And so staying curious and just being open about different ways of working is a big part of, I think, my life and my journey, but also how we lead this organization and why, I'm still a big part of this.
We see this at EK too. I mean, we're really proud of recruiting folks in the beginning of their career and developing their consultative skills as well as their technical skills. And it's always made sense. I mean, the work we do is so cutting edge. It's not like anybody's going to learn it in a program anyways. So the last time we checked, we have people with 18 different majors. And those, yeah, sure, tons of data science and comp sci people, but philosophy, English, history,
it's literature,
really neat. Yes, yeah.
I love that. I love hearing that. Yeah, I mean, I've met film producers who became data architects. Lots of interesting career choices and paths, and it is from that, again, that change and not being afraid to change and discover your passion.
Yeah.
So tell me, I mean, you all have been working with data for quite some time. You're building a career and company around it. What is Lulit, you mentioned your definition earlier. Do you have a corporate or just a general definition of data?
Yeah, I think this is part of also like our journey together, going through the different parts of the organizations that we work with. And I think there's a lot of this is driven by what's happening in the technology world. It has always been, actually, for the most part, but I would say there's a slight change in how we think about data as a result of the advancement in technology. And so this is why when I defined data earlier, I use the definition of a knowledge asset, because it is beyond just the stuff you have in your tables and spreadsheets. It lives everywhere. Anywhere you can attach a metadata or a descriptive thing around to or label to is an asset. So we see the traditional structured, unstructured, semi-structured concept of data blurring and expanding to different aspects of these assets and different metadata. So think with the Internet of Things, you have these different things coming in. You have processes, you have procedures, all these inputs that are required to power. Traditionally you would say your search solution, but now I would say even AI is a big driver of that. So that's how we significantly see this shift. It's still catching on, but we've been talking about this and talking about bridging. In fact, actually, this is how we ended up in the semantic space. Is it makes no sense to have the data team sit here and the content team sit here and have the organization try to answer a question which needs both of them to work together or break down the silos. So that's how we're seeing the definition of data pivoting. And the biggest, I think, lever of that now is the data team. It cares about knowledge. The traditional data team is shifting into knowledge because that is in the form of context, right? That is the bedrock of making an AI successful or a failure, which we've seen a lot of the latter.
Yeah, agreed. Anything, Joe or Zach, you want to add to that?
Something Lulit was saying that I think carries through is that that merger of the two, we're also seeing it reflected organizationally. The chief data officer and the CIO are now starting to report to COOs. And the idea is, a lot of your content and unstructured stuff was managed by IT. A lot of your data was managed elsewhere. You need both to make AI work, and you need someone to report up to for that. So we've definitely started to see, and it happened in the last year.
We like a couple of reorgs as a result of that.
Yeah, it's starting to move that way. And I think that's something that anyone looking for a career in data should be thinking about.
Well, that cues up my next question very nicely. So do you see the importance of data management and the number of jobs working in data increasing or decreasing over the next 10 years, which 10 sounds so far away now, but and why?
Yeah, I will speak at least from the services side. I think that everybody's seen the news. Big layoffs in services organizations, many attributed to the fact that AI is doing the work of analysts in these different companies. We're seeing the opposite. What we see, because of the niche that we're in, is growth. The number of calls and the number of calls from large global Fortune 500 type organizations has actually increased dramatically, with a much greater sense of very specifically what they want and need, which is to make their AI trustworthy and work, and leveraging semantics. So we're hiring, and we predict growth for the near future. I don't know that I'm going to say 10 years, because I don't know what's happening in 5, but for the next several years, we have a pretty confident path.
Very nice. Oh, well, this has been such a pleasure to chat with all of you. Thank you so much for joining as a group. I love group interviews. It's so fun to hear your stories. And I want to make sure that everyone checks out your book, Bridging Knowledge, Data, and AI, Harnessing the Semantic Layer Framework to Drive Intelligence. I'll put a link on the podcast site to purchase the book. And if just to ask, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, if anybody had questions about enterprise knowledge and how to engage with you, where would they find you?
Easiest way is to email us at info@enterprise-knowledge.com.
I love it. All right. Well, Lulit, Joe, and Zach, thank you so much for taking the time today. And to everyone out there, we will post a link again to purchase the book on the website. And for all of our listeners, if you'd like to keep up to date in the latest podcast and in the latest in data management education, you may go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, everyone.
Thank you, Shannon. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.